Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to bring in Jeremy Stewart here to join us for the Q&A. Let's see if we can bring him in here.
I can see you and hear you.
It is. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, ladies and gentlemen that are still with us on the floor, Jeremy Stewart, an honor to have you and your terrific film here. Sounds like you had a good time today.
Yeah, today was fun. The panels and Q&As and everything went. So I was popping in and out, but you guys have done a really good job setting this whole thing up. It's cool.
Well, we're doing it for you guys, right? It's all about getting exposure for your terrific film. So this isn't your first movie. I know you've made more than one, but tell us where the idea came from to bring this project together.
So the original idea for this one is the song that actually is the beginning and the end that starts with the lyric, "Everything I learned came from the television." That song is by one of my favorite bands. I was listening to it and I just had this it came from this image of just a girl sitting in front of all these analog TV screens and kind of being mind controlled. And from there, I usually work in the thriller and horror space, and I wanted to do something a little more in sci-fi. And I kind of ran with it and, workshopped it with a bunch of friends, and especially the actors who are in it are really good colleagues, and they all, got their input on everything. And then, we shot in a couple days and went from there. But the germination of the idea really came from that song, which is cool that the band gave us the rights to use it and everything, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, and I can tell you it's happened many a time where somebody wants to really connect their movie to a song, and then they find out, well, you got to pay this for the publishing and this for the song. And
we went through, because I got the okay from the band, and they sent me to their management company, who sent me to the guy who owns the masters, who I went to a ton of people, and the last thing we got before we had a final printing of this film was the song. We had an alternate song in there from our composer, and but having that full song really helped.
Audrey's here from It's Okay. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Awesome. Yes.
Yep.
Great.
We hear you. Terrific. Yeah, I pinged Justin too. I wasn't sure if he was going to make. I know it's late for him.
Oh, I don't know if he's going to make it, but Steven should be heading over in just a second. Sorry, we didn't realize that that other film in the list wasn't playing, so we were just waiting for.
We were just talking about that. Yeah, it literally happened middle of the day. We were trying to convert a file. They sent the wrong file, and
bummer.
Yeah, so I think they have it up so it can be seen in the on-demand theater.
Cool. Great.
It didn't make it here, so I'm glad you found us.
Yeah.
There's definitely some folks listening in, so it's terrific for you to join us. Jeremy was just telling us about the origins of his project and the other project he was working on. So we'll shift gears for a moment now that you're with us, Audrey. Should we wait for your associate, or not really sure?
Yeah, he should be. I texted him, I'm like, just go to Studio A, so he should be coming over in just a second. So I don't want, if Jeremy, if you want to continue what you were saying, I didn't mean to hijack.
No, I know you're good. I think I had finished my thought there, so
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's shift gears then back over to you. So tell us how you came upon It's Okay. I know that obviously you've got a few different producers and filmmakers on your team there. How'd this come about?
Yeah. Well, Steven, who's the other main actor in it, he and I play Cam and Alex. He and I were coworkers from our day jobs, and we both knew we were just actors together, and we were like, let's do something together. So we just got together, and it feels like such a late night TV talk show story, but we just were like, okay, let's just meet at the same time, and we're like, let's do a comedy, and we just let's do a comedy short or a scene or something, and we had an idea that he had kind of refurbished from his college days. And then just in the span of 2 hours of just literally asking questions of like, wait, so hold on, if this is real in this universe, then how does this other thing happen? And they're like, okay, well, that won't work. So if this is real, like if this is true, what else is true? And literally just in sort of like asking questions about like the reality that we were creating, like what is real in this universe we're creating.
Right.
Just 2 hours later, we're like, oh, this needs to happen. Oh, this is a drama. Okay, got it. So we're like, okay, well, we're gonna go with it. So we set out to do a comedy and ended up with a tearjerker. But we were excited about it. We were happy about it. And then I knew Ryan and Justin. My partner, Paul, has worked with both of them on other of their films. He did In Deep when they directed that. And so I'd seen them work, and I'd seen Outpost, and I'd seen some other of their films, and I just really like loved them, and especially for science fiction. And I contacted them first, and they were all aboard, and then they helped pull in Formidable Films and a lot of the crew. So I was very lucky to get to work with Justin and Ryan, who already like had some solid people on their team.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I mean, both of your movies have a very strong look. I mean, obviously, when you're making these kinds of sci-fi projects, right? It's like look is important, style is important. But I mean, Jeremy, 2 days, did you say?
2.5.
2.5? I mean, that's
So
saying something.
12 hours. And then we did our last day in our location. So that liquor store that's at the beginning of the library, so we did our travel in all in the same day. And that liquor store we were in at overnights on. I don't think I've shot something in the last 5 years that hasn't been an overnight. Because,
why wouldn't you?
Right. I just got. But that liquor store, I think we 3 a.m. Right. But yeah, 2 full days at the house, which had the basement and all of the kind of like TV stuff. And then half day each at the library and the liquor store.
Wow. So in terms of I mean, I know obviously you were on the other side of the camera, Audrey, but you were part of pulling this all together. I mean, how much time did you guys spend on kind of the look and the feel and storyboarding, any of that?
I wasn't part of storyboarding, and I think Ryan and Justin very loosely did that. But we were prepping like a good 3 to 4 months out. A big part of it also was like we crowdfunded this film, and so in prepping for a crowdfund and just prepping how to like convey the project we wanted to do, it naturally ended up, and just a lot of that work was part of that, of like, okay, and this is the feel, and so like it feels kind of like this film, and it feels kind of like Black Mirror, and it feels kind of like this. So that sort of also, I guess, killed 2 birds with 1 stone. We're just in like prepping for a crowdfunding project. We like just needed to really narrow it down. So yeah, we were probably 3 to 4 months out. We were just talking about tone and style and music, and yeah, quite a ways out.
Yeah, well, I think it's good that you gave yourself that kind of time. I mean, a lot of, especially in the short film category, a lot of dramas, if you will, they seem to spend less time on style and look and feel and more on character development and dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, with these 2 films, the look is even more important. So I guess we'll go back to Jerry for a moment. What's you've made, this is what, your second or third short film now?
This is my third.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the second one that like really had, I would say the first one I made was kind of like a one night, threw together a script, got together a couple friends, and we're like, okay, we're gonna make something. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the second one I've made that we like had a crew and actually got to do production rather than just kind of sling something together.
Okay.
because it's that weird thing of like, especially for shorts, getting money for them is really, really tough. I have another job. Like, we all have those things. Being able to get everything together is hard to do. But for this was my second one where we had a couple days to film and that kind of
thing. And so you've obviously cut your chops on the short format. Are you developing features now? Is that next?
Yeah,
for you, or?
that's the plan. We shot a quarantine short, like just got everything pushed through just for fun, just because me and the DP who was on this is one of my good buddies, and we were like, okay, we want to be back on set. But I've got one feature right now that's pretty much ready to go, so gonna try and get that up on its legs. Probably mid-January is the plan for that, to like start pushing it out and seeing what blows back. And then I've got a couple other feature scripts that aren't ready, but if someone comes knocking, they will be. Right, I guess it's just trying to stay
light
ready.
A fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. I got to tell you, I've had experiences in festivals that I've worked with in the past where I've literally initiated meetings with short filmmakers to agents, and one of the problems is, okay, this is amazing, you have talent, what's next? And they don't have it, and then it's like, okay, now what? You just blew this opportunity. So I do think it's important to just, if that's next, right? Some people want to make 3 or 4 or 5. That's like their fun.
No,
if you want to go, then you got to have something ready to go.
Yeah, I got a really good piece of advice from, I think, an old college professor who was saying that like you should eventually build out basically a flash drive. He was like, I carry a flash drive on me. I was like, well, email. But he was saying a flash drive with a feature, a pilot, and like a couple shorts. So if someone was asking, you had that ready. And I've always thought like it's a lot, like, right? Like it's a lot to have that and to be trying to make things and to be trying to make all these connections. But just having that idea of, okay, I'm still making shorts right now. Like, again, I still work at a restaurant. Well, ish, we'll see.
Right.
But like having that, trying to get to that point where I could have this flash drive to carry around has kind of been my goal. Just to stay ready, and all of my stuff, whether for better or for worse, is in the same kind of thrillery, sci-fi-esque vein. So,
And
Audrey, for you, what's next up?
Well, I have another, and truly these are comedies this time. I know, Steve, and I mentioned a comedy, it turned out very differently, but I have a comedy short that I have written that again, like we were about ready to like start pre-production, and then COVID, so things are just sort of on a halt right now. But I think that will happen in 2021, and that's a short set in the 1980s. I just was like, I just want to do something in the 80s and comedy, and I just want big hair. So I'm very excited. And then I'm a big fan of like having of like writing with someone, and I have like a couple different people that I like to write with. So I do have a feature that I co-wrote or co-created. We co-created it as a pilot, and then we were like, I think this is a feature. So she was like, let me just take it and run with it. So we're kind of checking at that. So my partner kind of blew it up into the feature, but we have a feature comedy about called Failing Up, about 2 millennial women that are given a challenge to not use plastic for a week. And we get to see what happens there. And then I did just start outlining an idea for a pilot, which would also be a comedy set in the Middle Ages. So
wow. That sounds challenging.
Stuff in the works, but yeah, a lot of writing.
You should see No Impact Man. Did you ever hear about that?
No, I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
All right.
Fun.
Is that the claymation one?
No.
Or animated?
No.
Okay, then I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, this is a bit older. It's not the last year or two. I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. But guy just decided he wanted to see how far he could go. and not have, the whole carbon footprint thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Gotcha.
it's been a while since I've seen it, but I feel like it was like he and his wife, and how is that going to go if she wasn't totally on board, and he's making a movie about it, and yeah, so there's that. But there's a few of those that have been made over the last few years where people are trying to figure out, how they can reduce their carbon footprint, and
Exactly.
it's an important thing,
Yeah,
right?
but this experience was so helpful to me. This was my first time working and again, like we are still considered like macro, micro budget, and in the scale of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still my first time working with the budget that we did have,
Mm-hmm.
which is substantial enough to shoot over 3 days. I obviously had a line producer that was handling a lot, but I was like learning. I was like, I want to learn. What do we do? What do we do? So it was very helpful. Oh, here are absolutely necessary things, that I hadn't thought of before that we need to spend money. And then other things were like, okay, good to know. We didn't need to do that. Now we know for next time. So it does make me feel that trial by fire, like feel a little bit more confident for the next project especially like with new finance issues like COVID testing, and making sure that just had that added element as we head into 2021 and see where we are with a vaccine and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the COVID stuff is not fun.
Yeah, I have a friend who's an actor, and he's one of our ambassadors and a juror, and he's going to do one of the acting panels, and he's done some TV and some movies, but he's not a huge name, but he's recognizable. And he was doing a show a few weeks ago, and somebody was tested positive, and he had some contact, so they stuck him in a hotel for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah. It's wild to me that like and again, I know I just shot something. It's absolutely wild to me that like bigger productions are trying to do things. Cause like we had like a total of 5 people, and it was still an absolute nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine having a set, even like a micro budget feature set of like 60 people or whatever, and trying to keep everyone safe.
Mm-hmm.
And like kudos to the productions that do it, because it gave me an absolute stress headache just even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's like you want to keep working your craft, and it's the other thing that I find challenging is that I've always felt personally that you don't want to try and write something for the market. You want to try and write something that you feel like
Mm-hmm.
something that you're close to or somehow connected to in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a sense from things that I'm reading that because of COVID, that people are starting to kind of try and think of how to make things that aren't necessarily in their wheelhouse because we're in a new place. And I get there are certain things you just have to do now, right? The world is changing, but I mean, you guys know you're in it, right? You're dealing with both sides of the camera, and you're telling stories, and you don't want to manufacture something with technology and force something you're not used to making or don't want to make because that's what the time allows for. You know what I mean? It's a strange.
I've heard that very phrase from like wonderful teachers I've had in the past. Like, don't chase the market.
Yeah.
And write what write what you care about. And, it's not going to please everybody, but like that's out of your control. Even if you did write for the market, that wouldn't please everybody. So it's, writing for yourself and writing for what stories you want to tell. And, that's like, that would apply even in like an acting performance, right? Like you can't go into audition like trying to do what you think they want. It's just like, what are my choices? How do I see this character? What do I want to bring to it? Here's what I'm walking into the room with. Let's collaborate, but like here's what my idea is, rather than you can't read people's minds.
Yeah. I do think there is a little bit where you can like adapt things to the COVID climate.
You have to adapt.
Right? Like you can take a thing, and if they're having dinner, just make the table really long, or
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
a dumb
That doesn't
example, but
change
like,
the crux of the story, right?
right, exactly. Like I do think there are ways to kind of morph things into what are needed. But like if you're trying to write something that takes place in a crowd, I mean, good luck. Like
Right.
that's right. Like good,
And
write it and wait 2 years and hopefully we can shoot it then.
Well, I had that in my comedy, my 1980s comedy short. Like the final scene is a party, and I was like, oh,
Woof.
hold up, let's see how we can, or even like
Mhm.
I've been watching things and trying to see how people can create it. I'm like, oh, this looks like a full party, and I think I've only seen like 4 extras, really.
Yeah.
So getting creative also with like cheating things and filming them. I mean, you don't want to the extent where it looks sloppy, but yeah,
There are ways to go
I
about
really had
it.
to pull back and be like, how else can I work this, or can this story, can this plot point happen in a different setting? So yes, for sure, we got to adjust some things.
Yeah.
So one of our founders is admiring your camera, Audrey. Phil wants to know what kind of camera you're using there.
Right now?
Yeah, I think he's talking about the quality of your camera and your background.
Oh, thanks. I'm on my laptop.
Okay. What's going on with that background? Is that just a really cool wall?
I think it's because I have a softbox light.
See, there is something going on.
I'm an actress, so for self-tapes, we've got some softbox lighting.
The old softbox.
Yeah. Not the ring light, the softbox. So thank you. Glad that it's a nice, clear picture. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was noticed. It was noticed. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask? I see some kind of funny comments here in the chat, but no real questions. So, is there anything that you guys want to talk about? I mean, I feel like I'm interested. I know the audience is there's a bunch of people listening now. I think it's always interesting to hear where people want to go, but I was also curious just to kind of keep it all in the family here. And this is about industry and networking and mentorship and education, all that. I know, Jeremy, you saw some of the panels today. You were just talking about ideas and writing what you know and not kind of trying to write for the market. The idea of managers and creating that relationship that could help kind of nurture your career and take you to the next level. Is that something that you're thinking about, Jeremy?
It's pretty much what I'm looking for right now is kind of, I was complaining to a friend earlier today, which is a really dumb complaint, but like I am at the point where I am very overshooting shorts, and I want to either go to commercials or level, and figuring out how to do that and how to find a mentor or a manager, that kind of thing, and go for there. So that I would love to have been slowly starting to look into, the best way for me to go about doing it on my own, because that's, this project in the press kit, I am credited way too many times, right? Like I will do whatever job needs to get the film made, to get it done, to get it, out in the world. And that's how I kind of take on my career at the same time. It's like, I want to be able to know what my next steps are, but I also want to find that person who can kind of point me in that right direction.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think it's helpful if you find the right fit and it's somebody that can take you on. I think sometimes people get stuck feeling like they have to have that, and then they cast such a wide net, and then they end up not really focusing on the connection, and then it's just about who will take me, and then somebody just spends 30 minutes blowing smoke on a phone call. Turns out they're not really going to do anything for you, and it's like, okay, you can tell your friends you have a manager now, but guess what?
Right, but will it help?
Right. Do you have any thoughts on that, Audrey? The idea of management and fostering next level careers for short filmmakers?
Jeremy, I'm sorry, I don't. So even I'm kind of in a unique position here where I'm an actor, kind of first and foremost. So I have and I'm even in the last maybe 2 years have started to also think of myself as a writer, but I didn't for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sort of bridging this gap of my deepest passion is acting, and I'm enjoying the writing in support of that and just like tell stories. But like, I'm like, I'm not like, I want a writing manager because I'm like,
Right,
I know
but even are developing projects,
I-
right? A lot of actors, develop,
yeah,
create their own production shingles, right? So they can
Mhm.
foster and develop projects for themselves, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And so I'm trying to learn from myself what the balance is of having both, because both of those are like full-time jobs in and of themselves, right? Just being like a writer filmmaker or director filmmaker or just being an actor. So I think I'm on my own journey of like, right, like, I mean, as you said, like, look at Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, actually, like, literally any show, or that, like, Mindy Kaling's like, I'm gonna write another show for myself, right? Like, great, do it. Of balancing both those worlds. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna change my tune and say, yes, Jeremy, I'm with you. A manager, mentor, yeah, for that very reason.
whatever works, as long as you find a path and stay passionate about it, right? There's so many
Mhm.
people in this industry, just they get sucked in to the wrong direction and they lose
Yeah.
their way, and then they look back 5 or 10 years later like, wait a minute, what was I doing over there?
Yeah.
Not only is it
and
not working, but I'm not even having fun. I mean, at least over here you're having fun.
Yeah, and that reminds me, like, it goes back to just even with the writing, like, don't chase the market, like, write what you know, or even like, I'm trying to not just be like, I'm a writer and just write a bunch of stuff to say I'm a writer. Like, I'm still
Mhm.
like thinking, what makes me laugh? Like, what's funny to me? And I'm going to pursue that, or what's interesting to me, and still just do, projects that
Yeah.
I would want to be cast in, even if I hadn't written it.
I mean, yeah, I write solely for the fact or for the purpose of me directing. Like, I write things that I want to direct. I don't like, again, if someone came to me and was like, hey, we want to buy the script off you, it would be a lot of thinking involved before I answered that. Right. Just because like, that's the reason I do it,
Right. Yeah, you're a filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are writers that are
No,
writing
of course.
scripts to sell their scripts, and occasionally they want to move into directing. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're a director
Yeah.
who also writes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
funny
that's
when people
awesome.
usually use like that little slash of writer slash director. I always do it the other way. I go director slash writer. And I know it doesn't scan as well, but it's like a personal point of pride for me where I go, no, this is the word I want you to read first about me. Right?
That's
Like in
good.
that, the whole thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You could make it a capital D and a lowercase w.
Actually, I'm
Smaller font for the
100% going
writer,
to steal that.
very readable.
Right.
Just like writer in
That's funny.
tiny little.
Yeah. And director. Director and writer. The little smiley face.
That's
Mhm.
great.
Well, this has been great, you guys. I don't have any other questions in it, and I think everybody's just listening and doesn't have a whole lot of questions. So, is there anything I didn't ask, or anything you want to share or say before we
There's one
cut this off?
question I saw in the little Q&A about, I don't know if you want me to ask it, but there's one question in there that I don't have a good answer, but would love to hear if Audrey does.
I just see one now about roadblocks. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, yeah, this is got thrown in there. What kind of roadblocks are you running into these days aside from budget and COVID? Since we already covered that.
Those are the two.
What about, yeah, so it's not about money, it's not about talent. Talent's everywhere. What about crew? Are you working with the same people, Jeremy, on your project? You trying to?
For the most part, I've worked with the same ED since I've started, and I don't think I'd be able to do anything without her. I have a couple of cinematographers that I bounce between depending on the project. But for me and my crews, I always go into it with just trying to I love working with the people I work with. So for the most part, I'll always reach out to them first. And if they say no, I've luckily, between school and living in LA, there's enough people around where we can find someone. Which is,
Yeah, you can always
really,
plug, you can
really
always plug the
lucky.
gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's a great question. And actually, it's interesting. We're like, I think maybe that for like my projects moving forward, that would be or could potentially be a roadblock. Or like, I haven't had a ton of projects where I've been the filmmaker on, so I don't have like a huge, and even like the crew for It's Okay came, loved them, and I definitely have all their contact info, but like that came primarily from my directors and from our line producer, and so like it's sort of like, great, if they're not available now, I'm like, okay, now I gotta find new people, and that just comes with time of like, one person wasn't available for a day, so they recommended somebody to fill in as the first AC, and now that person was great. So it's just like a very slow build out from project to project, and I've sort of recognized like I just have to do more projects in order to create that network or that body of like index, contacts for myself. So I guess the roadblock is just like knowing it'll come with time, and I don't have that at the drop of a hat. But like you said, Jeremy, like we're in LA, I could ask him, like another friend who did a film, like, hey, did you have a good sound person?
It's why we live here.
That's right.
Yeah,
like trust the way.
Yeah. And the other thing I have with that is also just like, I've PA'd on sets. I've had, like, again, before COVID, friends shooting things. I'll go, hey, I can stop by for a couple hours if you need extra hands or whatever. And like through that, you meet. That's the girl who I use as my AD. That's how I met her. Like, I met her as just being on a friend's set and being like, you're incredible at what you do. And we got some coffee. I'm now really good friends with her and her husband. Like, they're great. And I just, if she's not available, for everything I learned, we rescheduled the shoot because she wasn't available our original weekend. And I went, okay, we're changing this until she can do it. So hopefully I can, it's just working on sets and working with people here. You get those connections.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest things I think about making movies is just the communities that you foster, right? It's like it's almost like you're in summer camp with this group of people, and they become part of your family, and then it goes away, and then you try and get the gang back together again.
Yeah,
it's
and you all nerd out about the same shit. Like, it's great.
That's right. Well, awesome. Well, thank you both for coming, and thank you for contributing your terrific projects to this festival. I mean, obviously there's thousands of festivals, as we talk about, right, Jeremy, all the time.
Yeah.
There's thousands of festivals, and you have to make choices. So we're really proud that you came to us, and obviously you were invited by us because of how great they were. So kudos to both of you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time tonight.
Nice to meet you.
Same with you. Thank
you. Come back tomorrow and see movies and come to panels and do the. Are you guys they're going to come to the Industry Network tomorrow? It's going to be great.
Yeah. You'll see me all weekend. I'll be around.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Yeah, and Boomtown, Jeremy, right?
I love their beer so much you have no idea.
That's right. So you'll be at that tasting tomorrow night.
100% I will.
Awesome. We got to get some Boomtown in your hands. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good rest of the night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, too. Bye. Thanks, John.
Bye. Not sure if that worked. I'm trying to hit stop.